Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Is God the A-hole? Really? Really? All of you apostates, heretics, heathens, and general pagan people out there, welcome back to another episode where we are asking fundamental questions about the morality of the universe and whether God is a terrible person slash entity slash deity slash trinity. Welcome back to another episode, and today I do have some amazing feedback for you all. Some fantastic stuff that somebody shared. So I'm going to share that first, but I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Hello, Jedi. So good to see you. So we've got some. Hold it. I'm just going to change this a bit because I want you to, really revel in the in how beautiful this is. It's just such good feedback. So it's Yellow Moth says, glad to see you atheists haven't updated any of their argumentation after Jordan Peterson one-shotted you. I'm not sure what that one shot was. This person does not specify. It's not 2008. Really? I thought it was 2008. Damn it. I'm so bad. I'm so bad. This content is old and stale. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, they're right. They're right. It's just so stale. Like 3-day-old Jesus. It is stale. It's gone all off. You're like a 50-year-old who keeps bragging about the home run he hit in 11th grade. Sad. Did the Trump thing there. Sad. Yeah, well, considering I this year I am 50 years old, I sort of, yeah, I think that they're unaware of how old I actually am. So that's great. So I replied, lol, what? Jordan Peterson won't even say clearly if he believes Jesus rose from the dead, and his appearance on Jubilee Surrounded was abysmal. Is JP a Cino? A Christian name? So this was because, they were writing like Trump. They're obviously a kind of, they use these kind of rhino terms and stuff. So it was a play on that. I know. That's why it's so funny that Kermit Joker ended atheism so hard. Embarrassing, really. Is atheism ended? Has that ended? Did that end while I was away and it's not a thing anymore? That's great. Lol, good one. JP is a guy using a straw man derived from a worker's fiction as a rationale and a philosophy he does not understand to support a god he does not actually believe in. You are fun. And yeah, so if ever you've seen Jordan Peterson, his argument against atheism really comes from Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, and says, well, if you're an atheist, you can do anything. Right, they murder the landlord because she is, or the landlady rather, because she is really horrible, and there's no reason not to do it. And it's like, wait, what? I don't. Hang on a second. That isn't constructive. It isn't a good idea. Like, there's other reasons not to do that. So his idea of an atheist is someone. Like, for instance, he was asked, like, what makes somebody a religious person, a theist, and they're like, well, and his answer was, if they prioritize anything. So I don't know if even Jordan Peterson, he's so vague with his terms. I think he believes an atheist is somebody that is sort of really antisocial. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about. So yeah, Jordan Peterson's sort of just. I think he thinks an atheist is somebody who is a sociopath or a psychopath or somebody with no social adherence whatsoever, and all of us atheists are just, sort of theists of a religion that is different than his. It's so weird. It's so weird. Lefties are the bestest? Okay. Look, I gotcha. But let's move on because that was such constructive feedback. I have to do something that's not old and stale. So new things coming your way because apparently, yeah, I'm old, I'm stale, I'm decrepit, and I have no thing. But today we're going through Genesis 15 and 16. We're going to see posts by God and see if he is indeed the a-hole, which you might suspect he is. But thank you for joining me, and let's get started. If I could see this, yeah, there we go. So first off the bat is Genesis 15. And, I know that you've always got your Bible to hand, as every good atheist always does. To your left hand, because we're left-handed over here, apparently. Look, I'm a righty. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know that's old and stale, but I'm a righty. I didn't choose that, but I did get a good mark when I did a thing on bilateral asymmetry, which is why we're left and right-handed. It's really interesting, actually, because there's also people that are ambidextrous, and I think that people that are ambidextrous are kind of, the superior form of human life, but that's okay. That's okay. I don't know because, like, when you look at their sort of totals in how accurate they are, they're the same with both hand, and they're really good. They're really good. Um, yeah, bilateral asymmetry is weird, but yeah, I'm a righty. Did not choose it. It's just it's just one of those things. So this post, thanks to the nuns, I am quasi ambi. Yeah, I got you, Jedi. That's horrible because what Jedi's referencing is they used to smack like the nuns in Catholic school if you dared to write with your sinister hand. Like sinister literally means left, like you're left-handed. They would smack you and go, "No, that's evil," for some reason. Who knows why? Who knows why? It's weird. It's so weird. Okay, so this is I Am Yahweh posting on Am I the Arsehole? Was I wrong for promising a family and land to a guy? Was I wrong for promising family and land to a guy but making them suffer for it? Yeah, probably. Probably. Let's find out, but yeah, most likely. Yeah, yeah. So, long story short, a complete debacle had broken out in the land I was responsible for, and I had made a promise to my best friend, Abram, that his descendants would be numerous. Yeah. Just one problem was that Abram was getting older and he didn't have a child, which I'm sure was worrying him. So I appeared to him in a dream and told him not to be afraid and that I was his shield. Okay, you're his shield. Is that like a Marvel thing? Your shield? Surprisingly, Abram challenged me on this. He pointed out he remained childless. Yeah, I mean it's a weird thing when God has promised children to his representative and he's sort of, completely childless. He's probably completely childless. I would offer the explanation. He's probably completely childless because his wife is also his sister or his half sister. So maybe that's why. Maybe this kind of, and if Adam and Eve, it started off as Adam and Eve being the only two people. Inbreeding is probably getting a bit out of control at this point. Just saying, okay? Like, kind of hills have eyes situation over here in ancient Levant. Yeah. Uh, he pointed out he remained childless and his servant would inherit everything. Oh no, you can't have your servant getting everything. How dare you? How dare you? Like, how dare the servant get everything? In response, I clarified that his heir would come from his own body. Then I brought him outside and told him to look at the sky and count the stars. If he could, and that was the amount of offspring I was promising. He believed me, and I counted that faith as righteousness. Um, Yeah. So I don't know if you can count this us. How many stars are there? Because we're talking about like billions upon billions. I don't know if he's talking about, like, I feel sorry for the woman if she's going to have billions of children, but presumably the God's talking, Yahweh saying here that like it's your total descendants kind of thing over time. I would hope, because that poor woman, poor Sarai. However, Abram still wanted assurance about the land, so I instructed him to prepare animals for a ritual. And this is in the Bible, okay? The pictures of this I could not show on my thumbnail, but this was in the Bible. He cut them in halves and laid the pieces opposite each other. Then he waited. Birds of prey descended and he had to drive them away. Yeah, no joke. Like, that's what happens when you put out stuff in the dead. Like, you should see the seagulls around here. It's crazy. As the sun set, a deep darkness fell over him, heavy and unsettling. I allowed that weight to settle before speaking again. I don't. This is really weird. Like, are you sure he just didn't have a dream? I don't know. I feel like this is just a dream, but it's weird that he's cutting them in halves. What I told him next is where people tend to question my judgment. I informed them that the descendants would indeed inherit the land, but not immediately. First, they would be strangers in a land not their own. They would be enslaved and oppressed for 400 years. After that period, would they return, and even then it would coincide with the moral decline of the current inhabitants reaching its fullness. In other words, the promise I had made to Abraham would include centuries of suffering before it was fulfilled. Yeah. Critics argue this is manipulative, that promising abundance while foretelling generational trauma feels contradictory at best and cruel at worst. Yeah, kinda. Yeah. Others question why innocent descendants would have to endure oppression as part of a larger timeline. Some say I could have delivered the land immediately, which I could have. However, I think that having to work for something instead of it being handed to you on a silver platter is a worthwhile thing. Yeah, but it's not being handed to Abram. After Abram fell into a deep sleep, I passed between the divided animals in the form of a smoking firepot and a blazing torch. And yes, the Bible says that. Yes, God appeared as a firepot and a torch. Okay. Why? Why is that a thing? Of all the forms that God could have chosen, why? I don't, it's weird. That act signified the covenant rested on me, not on Abram's performance, and I bound myself to the promise. I was just trying to give Abram some reassurance that he would have the land from Egypt to the Euphrates. And yes, the Bible does say that, which makes a problem because there are some people who quote that the descendants of Abraham should have all the lands from Egypt to the Euphrates. And that is a problem because there's people there. There is people there, and it's a problem. Am I the arsehole for promising descendants? Am I the arsehole for promising descendants and land to my best friend, but making him and his people suffer in order to get it? Yes. Edit. Look, it wasn't animal cruelty. I'm sure he halved the animals humanely. Edit 2. People are asking why I took the form of a firepot and a torch. I do not want to explain my artistic expression on here. I just thought it would look cool. I don't know why. Like, of all the forms, like of all the awe-inspiring forms that God could have chosen, a firepot and a torch. Why? Like, not a dragon, not a a angelic figure, not anything. Yeah, a firepot and a torch. Are you sure it just wasn't some dude carrying a firepot and a torch? I Okay. Well, at least the birds of prey, after it was done, presumably the birds of prey ate well. At least that's a thing. As always, I will absolutely allow that we have a poll. So, let me get my thing up here. I do apologize. I'm presuming that a fire pot and a torch had special. I do know that the crook and staff had special significance for the Israelite people because they were herders, and you would use the hook for like hooking and grabbing sheep or goats or whatever you had, probably goats at that point, and you had the stick the rod, like the crook and rod. The rod was for driving the livestock, and the crook was for hooking the livestock, kind of thing. Um, I know they had special significance. I don't know if a fire pot had special significance. I suppose that fire always has had a special significance in human sort of things, like being afraid of the dark and things like that. But are you sure he just didn't have? I've had weirder dreams than this. Are you sure he just didn't have a particularly weird dream? That's a thing. That's a thing that can happen. But I really question why you've got to make a people suffer in order to give them if they're your chosen people. God, an asshole for making people suffer in return for land and children. So, um, so here's the thing: like Abraham is now choosing on behalf of people that never chose what they're going to go through in exchange for all of that land and children, kind of thing. I mean, 400 years, there will be like his descendants, some of them will only know suffering, they will never know anything else. So it kind of, he is taking away their choice in order to do that and just basically saying, hey, yeah, I'm going to choose for all of you, which is kind of a weird thing to do, in my opinion. But anyway, let's see what people have to say. Um, I wonder if these super Christie boys ever feel like they've won against the flying spaghetti monster as much as they think they've beaten atheism, which isn't a belief. Yeah. Yeah, and we're talking about left-handedness. I don't know why it was so vilified. I might look into that. Why was left-handed so vilified? I think it was seen as like um perceptions of bad luck, really. I'm just looking on Wikipedia. That should be enough for a thing. Yeah, I absolutely know that like um all tools and stuff are seen like made for right-handed people. Uh, in many religions, including Christianity, of course it is, the right hand of God is the favored hand. For example, Jesus sits at God's right side. God's left hand, however, is the hand of judgment. Oh, in 19th century Europe, homosexuals referred to as left-handed? Dang. What? Those who fall from favor with God are sent to the left, in which sheep represent the righteous goals, goats represent the fallen. And he shall separate them from one from another. So that's in Matthew, which Matthew is sort of the most, let's say, creative of the Gospels. As a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats, and he will set the sheep on the right, but the goats on his left. Look, left-handed people have had a real, like, this is not cool, to be honest with you. And I think goats have really been maligned. If everyone was from Adam and Eve, how can there be strangers? Well, presumably it's like after they all separate, because this is after the Tower of Babel. So it's after everyone's been separated and things have been confused and stuff like that. Yeah, wonder twin powers activate. Form of a smoke pot, shape of a torch. So one of the Wonder Twins could only do animals, I think. And one of the Wonder Twins had to be associated with water in some way. That's why they were always like form of an eagle, shape of a bucket of water. I think there was like the Wonder Twins couldn't do anything. Where did they get batteries from their torch? I presume that Yahweh was the battery for the torch, Jinx. That's what I presume. But it is a good question. It is a good question. When I arrive in my godly form, I'll be some badass black purple phoenix things. Yeah, I gotta say, much more impressive than a fire pot. I gotta say, you know, like a fire pot's just a ceramic, like small pot that you put oil in or some kind of flammable material, and then like you light it for light. That's essentially a fire pot. It's pretty unimpressive, really. Pretty unimpressive. Left-handed is sinister. Yeah, I made that joke already, but thanks, Simos. Yeah, so sinister used to be the literal term for a left-handed person, like you're offhand, and it's been used to describe somebody. Yeah, medieval times, somebody like. But the word sinister originally did mean left hand, but it now means something that is evil or suspicious or malign or something very, 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 very nasty. Something ominous is sinister. So it's been used in that way because it's associated with left-handedness, which is wild. But it's good to see you, Simos. I feel like I haven't talked to you in ages. God is the asshole. Yeah, and we've gone through the comments really fast. I'm not sure why the audience is so low. It's probably because I'm old and stale, and I'm like a 50-year-old with no... Look, if I was reading out one of the harsh comments earlier, it's kind of fun that people think that atheism is over and ended and it's not a thing anymore, when every single infant is born not believing in God. Just saying. Just saying. I wonder worldwide what percentage of atheists there are. Atheists worldwide. 7 to 10. Oh, it rises to 1625 for the religiously unaffiliated or non-religious. Up to 1.1 billion people identify with no religion whatsoever. Yeah, I don't think it's over. I don't think it's over. I really don't think that's over. It's in heraldry. Oh, really? Okay. I did not know that. It's the definition. Of, on, or towards the left-hand side. Yeah, there you go. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. It was a heraldic term. Interesting. And so we can thank Christianity and Matthew in particular for making that evil. So the only reason we say things are sinister is really Matthew wrote down that sheep go to the left. Sheep go to the right, goats go to the left, and we don't like goats. Okay, that's really, 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 really weird. That's very, very strange, but sure, thanks. Thanks. Well, I'll end the poll. That got done very quickly. I will say this might be a very, very short episode, but that's okay. That's all right. End poll. And we've got, yeah, it's kind of, I don't like the idea of punishing an entire collective of people on one person's decision. It really does smack of, and especially because this promise from Egypt to the Euphrates, it's being used by people in Israel, and I'm not saying everybody, all Jewish people, but just a collective of people in Israel who believe that they should have all of that land. I believe that Huckabee recently, um, he mentioned it. Give me one sec. I'll try and find a clip of it. He mentioned that, hey, the Jewish people and Israel, the country, deserve all of this land because of the Bible. Euphrates. Yeah, he was interviewed by Tucker Carlson, right? And this is the problem, and it's sort of topical because, and Sapphire pointed out this is a topical one. Where was it? This episode is weirdly topical. Yeah, it is, because this is exactly what Mike Huckabee, the ambassador for Israel, the US ambassador for Israel, it's exactly what he sort of said.
Is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose.
U.S. Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee has sparked outrage. Tucker Carlson.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have said it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
Huckabee.
Yep. So that's why it's a problem. It would be fine if they took it all. Ladies and gentlemen, the ambassador to Israel, US ambassador for Israel, and this is a problem because there is a very, very, very many people living there and countries that have governments there. So, yeah. But moving right along, apart from Mike Huckabee basically saying, hey, you can take all of the land you want. Yeah. Bit of a problem. And again, another post by I Am Yahweh. Am I the arsehole for allowing my best friend to get children by using his bondswoman as a surrogate? Yeah, so this is the chapter. You might be familiar with this one. This is the chapter where Abraham actually gets some children, actually manages to spawn some offspring. And we're going to find out how. You ask how? We've got this one tried and true method. Yeah, exactly, Jinx, exactly. So Saudi Arabia isn't between Egypt and the Euphrates. Saudi Arabia is east of the Euphrates, so it's not west of the Euphrates. Hang on a sec, I'll get a map. That looks good. Open image. Okay, so this is basically the Middle East. We've got Israel, Jordan, Iraq, and Iran, right? United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia basically are down here. So they're basically east. So we're talking everything from the Nile runs about here. So we're talking about all this land from the River Euphrates. Oh, wait, hang on. That's the River Euphrates isn't there. You're right. I think I might be wrong here. Give me one sec. At least with rivers, I guess. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Okay, so you've got your Euphrates. Yes, it would cover what, like a little bit of it, but not like it'd more just be Jordan, Israel, the West Bank, parts of Syria. Of course, the Sinai Peninsula, yes, but I'm not sure it would cover. It would definitely cover part of Saudi Arabia, wouldn't it? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Euphrates is in Iraq. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll see if I can find rivers and countries. Let me see. Okay, so well, no, it's not it's not. Yeah, it's in Iraq. Yes, so those are the Tigris and Euphrates, and that's the Nile. So presumably all this land in between here. So yeah, it would be part of Saudi Arabia, not a huge part of it. I mean, it depends on what they argue for, but they sort of could definitely argue that it is Iraq, Jordan, the Sinai Peninsula, and then part of Egypt, kind of thing, as well as Syria if you're including the Euphrates up here, because that the right hand one, this one is the Tigris, and that one's Euphrates. Almost all of Syria, all of Lebanon, Jordan, and definitely part of Egypt. You could argue that it doesn't include, but you'd think it would include like this part of Saudi Arabia. So yeah, you're not wrong, but it depends on how your interpretation goes, right? It depends on how you're interpreting that. So, but definitely like half of Iraq, half of Syria, all of Jordan, like just all of Jordan. Which is just that there's tons of people there. People live there. It's pretty wild, and it's what's happening in what's happening in Gaza is just incredibly sad and just disgusting. And it's horrible. It's horrible. Let's see. So I, male, infinity, age infinity, had promised my best friend on earth, Abram, lots of children, but he and his wife, Sarai, had not had a single child. Yeah, it's probably because they're inbred. Probably. That's my guess. Because, like, if you're unaware, Sarai was his wife and his sister. So, yeah. Keep it in the family. Time kept moving and Sarai remained barren. I hadn't given them a deadline, but I also hadn't given them clarity about how long they'd been waiting. Eventually, Sarai decided to solve the problem herself. She gave her Egyptian servant, let's be fair, servant means a bondswoman or a slave, basically. So if you've read the sort of how servants were treated or how they were treated, not when they were Hebrew, but when they were foreigners, like Egyptians, for instance. Not great. Not great. Definite slavery happening there. So it's basically a slave. She gave her Egyptian servant Hagar to Abram so he could have a child through her. Abram agreed without that much resistance. Yeah, no, he didn't really push back against that one. I did know my promise didn't require this workaround, but you weren't doing much to solve it. I would say that, but apparently it didn't. Hagar conceived quickly, which only intensified the tension. Once pregnant, Hagar began to look at Sarai differently, and Sarai felt humiliated and resentful. Yeah, lovely chosen people you have here. So Sarai basically can't get a child with her husband. She basically forces a slave to do so, and then she feels resentful that the slave got pregnant when she couldn't. Lovely chosen people you've got here. Yeah, blame this poor Egyptian woman for having the gall to be fertile and you're not. I do not understand it in the slightest. It's so weird. The power dynamic shifted overnight. What was supposed to be a practical solution became a fracture through the entire household. Okay. I mean, I don't know exactly why, but okay. Lovely chosen people you've got here. Sarai blamed Abram. Abram essentially handed the situation back to her, saying Hagar was under her authority. Yeah, and this is sort of a stupid thing. Abraham basically says, "Oh, she's your servant. It's your problem," kind of thing. Because obviously Sarai's like, well, my husband has slept and is going to have a child with a slave, an Egyptian slave. Yeah, this is sort of really, really horrible stuff. You're so worried about your lineage that you basically use a slave with no choice as a surrogate and then basically blame her when she does what you wanted her to do, which is wild to me. Sarai then treated Hagar harshly. Yeah, so this poor Egyptian woman, who's a slave in their household, is forced to conceive to this odious guy who can't get a child. And then when she does conceive, she's treated like crap. Hagar fled into the wilderness, pregnant and alone. Yeah, bit of a problem there. I allowed the conflict to escalate to that point before intervening. I didn't prevent the exploitation. I didn't correct Abram or Sarai in the moment they made their decision. However, I screwed that up. However, something. So I sent one of my staff out to find Hagar, and he found her in the desert. He asked her where she had come from and where she was going. She admitted that she was running from Sarai, who had treated her harshly, which was true. Now, don't forget, in sort of Abrahamic law, or Mosaic law rather, that if it says clearly, if a slave runs away, you're to help them, kind of thing. Now, this is more evidence that doesn't apply to Hebrew slaves, right? Like, that is something for foreign slaves, say slaves from Egypt running away or slaves from somewhere else running away. You're to help them, but not for the ones running from your household. And this is another treatment. My staff member, she admitted she was running from Sarah, who treated her harshly, which was true. My staff member relayed to her that I wished her to return and submit under Sarai's authority, which people have been heavily criticizing me and my staff for. Yeah, I wonder why. So you've got a slave who runs away because her, let's face it, her masters forced her to conceive to a guy who couldn't get his wife pregnant. Right, which, to start with is horrendous. And, it's amazing that Christians will speak out about how bad surrogacy is. Oh, surrogacy is not right because that's exactly what they did, except Hagar didn't have a choice in the matter. Sarai treated her like crap for the simple crime of being able to conceive. Like, what the hell? It was your idea. It was you doing it. And then when she runs away, God himself intervenes and makes her go back to her despicable masters and submit. Not to, God doesn't go to them, right, and say, hey, you've got to treat that this person's no longer a slave. This person is now a valued member. No. He goes to the slave and says, go back and submit to your master's authority. But I also made a promise. I told her descendants, I repeated a word there. I told her descendants would be numerous beyond counting. My representative told Hagar to name him Ishmael because I had heard of her misery. Ishmael was then described as a wild donkey of a man who would live in hostility towards his brothers, which is not exactly a compliment but seemed to satisfy her. Yeah, which is weird because I don't know why promising a person that has been forced to conceive by another man as a wild donkey of a man. Like, all of this is in the Bible. I didn't make any of this stuff up, okay? I screwed up part of the formatting, I admit it, but I didn't make any of this up. This is in the Bible. This is literally in the Bible. Hang on, I'll find it. Genesis 16. I should be able to grab it. Well, you all have your Bible next to you, as I'm sure all good atheists do. Every single atheist has a Bible on their heart. And the angel, hang on, I want to show you this. The angel of the Lord also said to her, you are now pregnant, you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. And he will live in hostility towards all his brothers. Why would that, satisfy her exactly? I don't know. I feel like the servant of the Lord, the angel that came down to help her or convince her to return, was really just some people who got and dragged her back, because that isn't. It's so weird. It's so weird. Hagar responded by giving me a name, the God who sees me. She recognized that she was not invisible, even if our circumstances didn't actually change, and she returned to the same household. Seriously, in this story, the person that I feel sorry for is Hagar. This is supposed to lift Abraham up as this amazing man and, a champion of the people. No, he's horrible. And God doesn't come across any better. He's like, yeah, I know you've got vile masters who are making you have a baby because they can't make one of their own. Seriously, horrible. Still, I can see the criticism. I allowed the original decision to unfold unchecked. I allowed a vulnerable woman to be used as a means to fulfill someone else's promise. I stepped in only after she fled, and then I told her to go back. While I blessed her son, I don't know if he blessed her son, to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't know. Presumably, he saw him. I didn't dissolve the rivalry or undo the damage. The household tension remained, and it would echo for generations. From my perspective, I did not endorse the shortcut Adam and Sarai chose. I also did not abandon Hagar. Well, maybe it would have been better if you did. Although I didn't speak to her directly, I did take the time to send an angel to tell her I was aware of her suffering and wove her child into the larger picture of the people I had chosen. I kind of feel sorry for anybody that God chooses, seriously. Am I a bad guy for allowing my best friend to impregnate a servant because his wife could not seem to provide him children? Edit. Look, Hagar was only technically a slave because she was an Egyptian bondswoman. Yes, that was 100% a slave. Edit 2. Everyone is acting like Hagar was the victim in all of this. She was really just collateral damage from Abraham not having children. Edit 3. People have commented that if I cared, I should have gone myself. I think that a high-level staff member is sufficient. I was busy, okay? Yeah, too busy to go, but not too busy to appear as a freaking firepot for Abraham. And this is the thing. When Abraham's having, oh, I'm never going to have children. You will appear as a fire pot and a torch when Hagar is quite rightfully flees from these horrible masters. He sends somebody in his stead. Like, Abraham does not deserve a fire pot and a torch appearance. I'm just going to say it. He doesn't. He doesn't. And from this is where the Christians get this idea of, hey, you know, Abraham was a terrible guy, but God chooses terrible people to do good things. And that's how you end up with Trump. The amount of Christians I've heard say, hey, yeah, Trump's awful, but God chooses awful people to do good things is incredible. Like, that he is everything that they hate about the world and you know, vileness and all of the behaviors they absolutely hate, but for some reason think that a God is using him to do great good. So it's okay that he's absolutely vile. I gotta say, I'm not impressed. Not impressed with Abraham. Not impressed with Sarai. And certainly not impressed with Yahweh. I'll tell you that right now. Was Yahweh an asshole for returning for, well, I'll just say letting Hagar get prego with Abraham's child and then forcing her to return when she ran? I'm going to say an absolute asshole move. Like, seriously. Seriously. Like, okay, so it's not just Hagar that is going to be affected by this. It's also her child, Ishmael, right? Can you imagine the resentment Sarai will have for Ishmael, the child? Like, that is, if she resents the mother, like the Hagar for sleeping with her thing, is she really going to love that child? Is she really going to raise it right? What have I done? The question is too long. Beautiful. I mean, you know, is that going to be a happy household? I mean, you hear the Christians talk about the nuclear family and how it's so important and how, you know, all of these things, you've got to have the husband, wife, and children kind of thing. That is the way. That's the only way. You know, that is it is a criminal to have polyamorous relationships or relationships with, you know, unconventional relationships, and then they have a story like this that they completely ignore, of course, of a slave being used to propagate, because God made Abram a promise and it's got to happen. It's got to happen. So, you know, basically using that person to make a child into that family. How would you feel growing up? Like, are they just going to tell the child that Sarai is the mother? Or will Ishmael have to accept that Hagar, like his mother, is a slave to this guy? I don't know. I don't know. It's very strange. It's very strange. Some people who associate with the religion are atheists. Yes, I would agree with that. You know, I mean, a lot of the Jewish people are atheists, and I will say a lot of the Jewish people are not for this war in Gaza. it is a section, a right-wing section of the Israeli government that is doing it. But it seems like they want to frame any criticism of the Israeli government as a criticism of Jewish people, and that is not true. Like a lot of Jewish people, they'll say their religion is Jewish, but they really are just atheists. But they get to, I am not going to force any label on anybody that does not want it. If you want to say, hey, I'm not an atheist, I'm agnostic, fine. If you want to say, hey, I'm not an atheist, I'm a secular Jew, fine. I do not force that label on anybody. No. You don't like goats? Should I leave? Absolutely not. I love goats. I love goats, Jinx. I do. It's just, I think that, so the sheep goat distinction, it was pointed out very well by Terry Pratchett, who sort of pointed out that sheep are stupid and they kind of have to be driven, right? But goats, they are led. Like they can be, or was it the other way around? Like goats were intelligent, so they needed to be driven, but sheep need to be led. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, goats are way more intelligent than sheep, right? So they have this thing in Christianity where being a sheep is a good thing. And sheep have this herd mentality way more than goats, which are way more intelligent. So they don't like goats because goats are the more intelligent kind of thing. And goats will, I mean, goats will be more stubborn and sort of think for themselves more. But it's very telling about the Christian religion that they want to be like sheep. That is really how they want to be, like the flock, the Lamb of God. They've got lots of metaphors for it. That they are sheep, basically. I like goats. I think they're awesome, absolutely awesome. Actually, one of the sort of frequent flyers to the channel, Caterpillar, she has goats and they're amazing creatures. They are awesome. Will Israel toss out the Saudis? Yeah, I don't think so. Well, you've got two sort of schools of thought in America. Basically, you've got the political class that supports Israel, and they're the sort of fundamentalist Christians, and you've got the right wing that supports Saudi Arabia because of the oil. So this is why I strongly dislike the religion. Yeah, because a promise made in a book thousands and thousands of years ago, we shouldn't take that as some kind of deed to the land. And, sort of to touch on Kip's book, God's Propaganda, is all of them claimed the land, basically. All of these tribes, all of these kings, they all claimed the land for themselves and usually had some kind of divine right to do so. It isn't unusual. Iraq was the largest Jewish population in the Middle East before Israel was created, so they want that too. All from Egypt to southern Turkey. Yes, but there's other peoples in that land. That's the problem. There's also, not only the Arabic peoples, but all kinds of, other peoples as well. I mean, Iraq under Saddam Hussein was absolutely terrible for... there was one group of people, I can't remember who they are, and Saddam Hussein really persecuted them, and they've always had a bad time, always had a bad time, and I can't remember the name of them. The Kurds, yeah, the Kurds. Who lived in northern Iraq, the poor Kurds. It absolutely terrible what's happened to them. And the Kurds were also the people that sort of helped America during the Iraq War and the Gulf War, but they were kind of left to their own devices. Really, really bad stuff. Really bad stuff. The poor Kurds. 1,640 injured and 650 killed by Israel and Gaza. Yeah. You see, sweetheart. Yeah, and so it's very telling that sort of the American administration is sort of saying, hey, the war's over, it's been solved, there's now peace, and there's people are still dying. They're both accusing either side of breaching that agreement. Israel's accusing them of not returning bodies. They're accusing Israel of dying, but I think between the two, like continuing to fire upon people who you're under a ceasefire with is terrible. And it's interesting that Trump's got nothing to say about it. He's got nothing to say about Russia breaching their ceasefire with Ukraine. Horrible stuff. Horrible stuff. I would not trust. It's disappointing because when America says, hey, yes, we have a ceasefire, there's an air of legitimacy to it, but I would not trust it anymore. So people have a problem with the word genocide, or supporters of Israel will say, well, it's not genocide. I think that it fits that word completely. It does. Like, a lot of people want to say, oh, but it's ethnic cleansing. Yeah, that's genocide. When there was ethnic cleansing going on in the former Yugoslavia between the Croatians and Bosnians, the Bosnians were getting ethnically cleansed. That was a genocide. It was. Right? Like, so let's not mince words about this. This is what's happening. I'm sorry, but it is. Strange how these chosen people are as moody as the God which picked them. Yeah, I find it hard to believe that these were the best people that he could find at the time. Like, you couldn't find anybody better. Like, maybe he needed to, and all of this could have been, and here's the thing. They're basically saying now that the only reason we're saved, the only way to be saved or to be a good person is through Jesus. Well, how could they be a good person when Jesus hadn't rocked up yet? And some apologists have sort of gone, oh, but the Old Testament, it sort of prophesies Jesus, and that their reasoning is very, very loose. Like, oh, it has, the binding of Isaac was it was a prequel to Jesus, and it's like, what? But Jesus wasn't around, so how could they be good people if Jesus hadn't come down and tell them how to be good yet? So, maybe Jesus should have come down when, say, Adam and Eve. Maybe Cain would never have killed Abel if he had Jesus. Did you ever think about that? Oh, I see you stopped the stupidity. Thank you so much. I will get to you. Actually, I'm going to skip to that because that is a priority. Stop the stupidity gifted 5 readerships. Thank you so much, STS. I really appreciate it. As we go along here, I absolutely appreciate it. And those go out to Jonathan J. Frowns, the Reverend Tabitha, Jolly Roger, and B-Dub. Oh, another bee. We get Hive Science in here, which is Bree the bee, the queen bee. But there's another bee for you. Be well, and be good. Be good, bee. Thank you so much, Stop Stupidity. I really appreciate it. It keeps me going. It lifts me up. It gives me energy, and it makes me hard. There you go. That's all that it does for me. But winners, chicken dinners, enjoy your emotes and other benefits, as well as the member stream, which will be tomorrow night Eastern time. So that is Wednesday night Eastern time, where I will be continuing talking to people about current events, how I'm going, how I feel, how you feel, And we will be doing cat eugenics, which will be fantastic. Oh, Jonathan's in the house. Congratulations, Jonathan. And welcome. I'm not sure if I've seen you before. If I have and I'm just forgetful, I apologize, but awesome. Phantom says, when people told me how bad surrogacy is, this is the story they pointed to. It was humans interfering with God's plan in unnatural ways. Look, if humans interfered with God's plan, I don't know how you thwart God's plan. If God has a plan and that's how it will come out, this is the same thing of omniscience and having free will. If God has a plan, how do you thwart it? Because if his plan can be thwarted by simply, I don't know, palming your slave off to have your children, I don't like, how is that possible? Number one. Number two, God was not averse to this, right? He didn't stop it. He didn't punish either Sarai or Abraham for it. He brought Hagar back to have the son. Like, he didn't stop it or condone it in any way. And he told, and it says clearly in the Bible, he told Hagar to submit to the people that had done this. One by Land says, I like donkeys. Shrek did too, even if he pretended not to. Shrek is in the Bible, right? Or am I mixing stories? Well, Shrek could be in the Bible. I mean, is Shrek the behemoth that is spoken of? Did you ever think about that? Shrek could be the behemoth that takes shade under the tree, the cypress tree. I think it's a cypress tree. Maybe behemoth is Shrek. It's an ogre with layers. Nuclear family, I prefer the traditional water wheel family. Why is that not showing? Okay. Hello? Wow, there's a delay on that. Okay. Sorry, Restream is being incredibly delayed. Nuclear family, I prefer the traditional water wheel family. Well, I salute you, yes. I think we should start doing solar families and wind families and geothermal families. Okay, we're stretching the metaphor so far here, but it's better than the horrible pollution of coal-fired and gas-fired families. Gas. No one wants a gas-fired family. Come on now. Well, don't get me started on environmental forms of power. It is absolutely criminal that we're not using solar power in Australia. It's criminal that we're not using wind in places with a lot of wind. It's terrible. It used to be very. It used to be incredibly economically inefficient. It used to be horrible. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you're absolutely right. They, them. Yeah, I do apologize. You're absolutely right, Ember, and I do apologize. I have to remind myself sometimes of that because we all mess up. That's okay. I apologize. They, them. I'm not sure what her their goats use. I really am not sure. I'm trying, peeps. I'm trying. The sheep-goat distinction. Sheep goes to heaven, goats go to hell. Yeah, and this has lasted all throughout medieval times, and you see Satan, or Shaitan, who is the devil of the mythology, being represented with goats. But it was never, like, don't forget that if Satan was the one that convinced Eve to eat the apple, then he was a snake. He should be a lizard man, not a goat man. He should be a lizard man, or a snake man, I should say. But without legs, because he crawls on his belly all the way through. But, probably he wasn't the serpent, because the only thing that says that Satan was the one who convinced them to eat the apple is Satan being referenced as that old serpent in Revelation, I believe it is. And nobody says that it was the serpent in the garden. So, I don't know. So, in sort of Jewish tradition and Hebrew tradition, Satan was the accuser. He was kind of God's prosecutor, right? He would go and he would go and find people that had questioned God or disobeyed God or challenged God in some way, and he would sort of accuse them of being unfaithful, disloyal, or whatever. So that's why when you understand that, the story of what's his name? Bible. There's a story of who do you put plagues on? I've had a mental blank. Can someone help me out? Kermit? No. No. Why have I had a mental blank? By Job. Wow. Job. Yes, Job. Thank you. Wow. I don't know why I had that. That is crazy. I must be getting old, and I am old. Stale, and nobody watches me. The last person in their comments made that perfectly clear, that I'm like a 50-year-old who is just happy he did a home run in 11 years ago. That was made perfectly clear to me, and because I'm actually 49, I take that as a compliment. Orthodox Jews in Israel oppose the genocide. Yes, the Israelis are in favor of it and killing every Palestinian, but these people are not religious Jews per se. Yeah. I mean, the Israeli government is in favor of it, but I mean, Orthodox Jews are not. Well, actually, most people who live in Israel are opposed to it. That's the thing. Support for war in Gaza in Israel. Yeah, so a 2024 poll showed that 72% of Israelis wanted the US to play a major role in diplomatically resolving the conflict. So I don't think it's as high as you think it is, that want to like take the land kind of thing. I don't think it's as high as you think it is. I mean, yeah. It's a tragedy. It really is. The Kurds had no way. Well, the Kurds always have no way to get out from under the boot of whoever's in the air at the time. I mean, Saddam Hussein gassed them. He did horrible things to them. It's really bad. It's really bad. I think they're not even a religious group. They're just a cultural group. Kurds helped America during the Syria tour and were sold out similarly as Iraq decades ago. Yeah, and it's a shame. It's a real shame. So were the Afghani translators and stuff. It's a shame. It's really upsetting. I think that the least they could do for all of their help is sort of find them somewhere to just live freely and not be persecuted anymore. Hi, everyone. I'm doing well. I hope you're well, STS. So good to see you. IAGS, International Association of Genocide Scholars, voted overwhelmingly to declare Gaza as a genocide. Yeah, and it's so saddening that Jewish people or Israeli people who were themselves on the end of an attempted genocide. I mean, I know that the World War II Germans didn't wipe all of them out, but that's mostly because other countries gave them sanctuary, which I'm totally in favor of, right? Like, just because Israel is doing something horrible to Gaza doesn't mean they themselves haven't been on the receiving end of this kind of treatment. But you would think that people who did receive this kind of treatment wouldn't do it themselves. Rock hard for Doug. Why is that familiar? Is that a Dapper thing? Is that a Dapper thing or something? I feel like it's a Dapper thing. I'd love to see Dapper more. But oh, it's a deconstruction zone thing. Look, I really, I'd love to meet, I'm not sure what the deconstruction zone, I've caught a couple of episodes and he's very good, I must admit. It's not easy being green. Hell, at this point, it's not easy being human, my friend. Seriously. Kermit. Yeah, and it's weird because the comment that I had at the start of the episode had like, oh, Jordan Peterson wrecked atheism, and he's Kermit the Frog who really isn't a Christian. And it's like, it's very strange that a Christian doesn't have a problem with a guy pretending to be Christian as long as he is attacking their enemies. And I worry that if somebody helps these people attack their enemies, they're going to be on the receiving end of it sooner or later. You know, it's like Ben Shapiro suddenly realizing why, supporting this brand of right-wing sort of commentary is a really bad idea because they don't like him. Given a choice between using 1 gallon of petrol to make solar panel, which gives you energy for 20 years, or burn it once and it's gone, energy policy is not complicated, just corrupt. No, well, look, okay, in fairness, all right, I'm going to be really fair. Maybe a decade, maybe 20 years, 25 years ago, solar energy was not efficient enough to be really feasible. Okay, it just wasn't. It was very, very cost prohibitive. It was absolutely terrible. We could not store the power. It was not really feasible. Granted, right? But they're still using the same arguments against solar from back in like the year 2000 now. And those are not the same anymore. It's like saying, hey, we can't we can't give a computer to every child in school because it's cost prohibitive and, we can't get that amount of resource. Those same, they may have been an argument a while ago, 25 years ago, not today, right? Like that is not an argument today. We have come a long way since then. So, yeah, I totally get it. And the real thing that should worry people, and it worries me, is that we have used, like the experts sort of say that we've used about 50% of the world's oil reserves. Maybe about 40 something of the world's oil reserves. And we have done so in 300 years. 300 years. And we've used about half. This is unsustainable, completely unsustainable. That's what it is. And maybe it won't affect this generation, but next, the generations coming up, it probably will if we don't at least limit our usage. Like, come on now. Exactly, yeah. Yeah. And look, I agree. I agree that it's money in politics, Is it Justin? Justin is awesome? Yeah, right on. Right on. Hey, What the Beck? So good to see you. So good to see you. Yeah, and hit that like. Why not? Treat that like Sarai treated Hagar with extreme disrespect. Why not? Why not? That would be fantastic. But yeah, I really think that I'm very disappointed in my government. They made a promise last election of doing renewables, and I don't see a great shift in it. I do not see it. It's a lot better than the opposition's idea of, hey, let's go nuclear. Now, nuclear can be fine, right? Nuclear can definitely, if you've got the infrastructure set up, if you've got everything ready to go, if you're already depending on nuclear, expanding nuclear is okay, right? I'm not thrilled with it. We should be going for renewables, but nuclear can help that gap, between fossil fuels and sustainable. Problem is Australia has no nuclear infrastructure, none whatsoever, zero, zilch. We've never done nuclear at all. And so it will take too long to get it set up before it actually provides power. Solar is the fastest build out for new power plants too, in addition to the cheapest infrastructure. Offshore wind is pretty good too. We have options. Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about solar is it's modular. Okay, so you don't have to roll out. Like with a nuclear power plant, you've got to do the entire thing in one lot, right? You've got to just set the thing down and have it all constructed kind of thing. Solar, you can do 1/10 of the total build. And then, generate a little bit of power and then slowly set it up as it's generating power. You can't do that with nuclear, right? You've got to do the entire thing first and then it generates power. Solar, you can generate power as you're rolling it out. Same with wind. You can generate power as you're rolling it out. It's a very, very good like that. That you don't have, like you've got a project for, okay, let's offshore wind. You've got a project for 100 turbines. You can make 20, generate some power, and then put another 20 in, and then put another 20 in. And you can keep going like that. That is why it's so good. Yeah, it's not great. It's okay. I think that it isn't the solution that we're after, though. Not in my country, at least. Look, I wouldn't comment authoritatively on nuclear. I've got no idea of how other countries have it, but trying to get nuclear started up from zero is a terrible idea. By the time you have it up and running, it's kind of going to be outdated. It's not going to be the way to go. And I mean, look at China. China is currently putting nuclear solar panels on every single damn mountain they can find. They know what the way to go is. And China worries me, but it doesn't worry me that much. I mean, China has always been a very strong power in the region. It's always been a strong power, except when Japan attacked them kind of thing. But it's always been a powerhouse. But China doesn't expand a lot. China, as far as imperialism goes, China has been very inward looking. Now, there's some exceptions to that, like Taiwan. The reason why China is so aggressive towards Taiwan is because Taiwan is made up of the remnants of the government that China had before the communists took over. So when the communists took over, the government in charge, a nationalistic kind of government, fled to Taiwan, an island off the coast. And they basically called it quits. But China considers that island to be part of China. The government that they sort of overthrew hid out on Taiwan. So they kind of want it back. And I am not in favor of it. I think that China having a monopoly on the chip production factory is a really, really bad thing, right? Because Taiwan also produces, it has an amazing chip factory that produces all of the high-end technological chips that we use in computers. It has really become the sole exporter of these chips. And that factory is massive and incredible. And if Taiwan gets attacked, I don't know what's going to happen. The US's posture has always been to defend Taiwan. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen because they sort of, you want a tangent shirt. Tangent shirt. Oh, from Ember. Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking about merch. I don't know what I would do for merch, but I think I have to get more. Anyway, I'll save it for tomorrow. But yeah, this particular verse is horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely terrible. Could you imagine what it would be like to be a foreign slave? And don't forget, Abraham was the guy who it says in the previous chapters that Abraham basically he got this slave, probably this very slave. Now don't forget they were Egyptian, and the Bible clearly states that Abraham, for leasing his sister wife, so Sarah or Sarai, who was his wife and also his half sister, for giving her to the Pharaoh, he got servants or slaves, right? And she was an Egyptian slave. So could you imagine being a woman in that time? You're in Egypt, right? Maybe you're a slave in Egypt. You're working in Egypt. All you know is Egyptians. You're given to this foreigner by your king, your pharaoh, right? And then he basically makes you have a child. Him and his wife, who's also his sister, makes you have a child because he can't get his wife pregnant. You run away, and an angel shows up and says, yeah, God wants you back there and submitting. You have to go back and submit. And apparently Hagar goes, well, I feel seen. I feel seen now because she's promised by God that her son, Ishmael, will be a wild donkey of a man, whatever that means, who will fight with everybody and everyone will fight with him. This is a terrible story. This is a horrible story. This is an awful story. Poor Hagar has to go back to the foreign family that she's been given to because from a prostitution deal, to go back and be under their control because God can't just fix Sarai's pregnancy at this point for some reason. Wild. We are supposed to be making them here as well. Yeah, which earlier we were saying, Robin, and hello, Robin. Good to see you. Robin is helping me out with some debates. Robin's awesome. Absolutely fantastic. Been doing some fantastic debates herself as well. So, yeah, check out Robin Webster. You drop a link for yourself, Robin. I can find you. But I just want to say, it's amazing when Christians go, well, God doesn't approve of surrogacy. It should be your husband and wife only. This whole surrogacy thing is terrible kind of thing. What that tells me is that it's not about religion because their holy book has a clear case of surrogacy. This is surrogacy, right? Not just surrogacy where we are implanting the germline, the sperm and egg, into a woman, like a fertilized egg to a woman, which is still your husband's genetic material. It is surrogacy as your husband has a concubine or a slave make a baby for you that is not your baby, right? You are not the mother of that child. That surrogacy. Usually when we talk about surrogacy, we're talking about artificial insemination, implanting an egg into a woman who becomes the surrogate, who uses her womb as the incubator. Now, the only reason this works is because during the pregnancy process, a woman will not try to discard foreign DNA from her body. That's why it works. Because if they did, yeah, check out Robin, everybody. She started to debate. She's very good, has done some awesome couple of debates, I must say. So, yeah. So this is sort of a even worse form of surrogacy in their view, where you're sleeping with someone who's not your wife in order to have a baby. That's even worse. So it's not religion, their religion, which opposes it. It's not culture, right? Like, it's not a cultural thing, because that child will be raised in their culture. Ishmael here isn't going to be raised as an Egyptian, even though his mother's Egyptian. He's going to be raised as a Hebrew. He's going to be raised as a Canaanite culture. So it's not cultural. So what's the big deal about it? Well, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's very, very strange. And it's kind of weird that it's weird that Republicans will want people to have babies, but they're against, childcare assistance and assistance for mothers and assistance for single mothers. They're against all of these things, but they want people to have large families, which is weird, because if you want to, like, stop people from having babies, there's some clear ways to do it. One of the ways to stop people from having children is do not provide childcare assistance. That's one of the ways to do it. To force people to live and work in cities at long hours, that's another way to do it. If you want to stop people from having babies. Because, if you don't get the guy helping out and he's too tired after work and everything, it becomes really difficult to take care of children. And their answer is, we'll only have men work and have women sit in the home and just not doing it. That drop in productivity is going to be disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. And, I have doubts about overpopulating the world anyway. Like I've just told you, and is true, that we've used up half of the world's oil reserves in 300 years. More people, more resources. But, yeah, so I think this is an absolutely tragic, terrible story, and I'm glad it's just a story. But it sort of shows the immorality at about those times that I think is immoral. I mean, it was normal for them to have slaves that were concubines and stuff. I think it is immoral because they didn't understand it. But we understand now the power dynamic of one person having a power dynamic above another. That is why it is immoral for a coach or a teacher to have a relationship with their student. There is a power dynamic there. Even if that is not illegal, it is so unethical and immoral because one person has no power and the other one has all the power. I mean, I don't think that Bill Clinton was terrible for doing whatever with Monica Lewinsky because of some, clutch my pearls, oh, the sanctity of the family kind of thing. I think it was immoral because he had power over her and he's a disgusting person because he had all the power in that situation. That is not a good way to have a relationship, or, the coercion is there. It's not right. But yeah. Anyway, that was Hagar and her terrible episode with God, making her go back to a terrible situation. Look, if God was good, he would have said, hey, I'm going to give you a new family where you're respected, give you a husband. But no, he's sort of like, go back, be an incubator, be a slave, so that my favorite guy, Abraham, can get a child. And 77 say God is the asshole. Oh, some people think he's not. I'd love to know I would really like to know if somebody is there that voted that God isn't the asshole. I'd really like to know the rationale and why. Like, why? Like, without saying God's always good, so anything he does is good, what is the rationale for God to return a slave who was forced to bear a child for a guy that prostituted his wife out to the Pharaoh of Egypt, in order so they can make a baby and continue on his lineage? I would really like to know. I would really like to know the rationale of God doing that. I mean, you can point out God could have just allowed them to have a child. Wasn't it God's choice that Abraham and Sarai could not have a child? Wasn't it his choice? So didn't he set up this circumstance in the first place? Like, why not just let her have a child? I don't know. It's very strange. And even if we say, hey, free will, Abraham gets to, do his own thing, free will. He didn't have to send Hagar back. He could have done something else for the girl. UN just declared a global water bankruptcy due to global warming. World is running out of fresh water. We need data centers using 4 million gallons a day. God better step in soon. Yeah, I mean, it is. I don't think they use fresh water. I believe that they use distilled water. But yeah, it is something that is a problem. So yes, I'm not sure it's that high. I think it's about 19 million liters. Yeah, it is that high. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, from my perspective and Western Australian perspective, we have done really well in water reclamation, so treatment of water to recycle it essentially, and you may have to get ready for that. You may have to be prepared for that. Our technology has also been in electrolysis, getting fresh water from salt water. So there is always the sea. I think that the problem comes with nations that don't have access to good technology, right? Okay, Western Australia is sort of a leader in water treatment capabilities. We're actually a technological leader in water treatment, and it hasn't been because we've wanted to. It's because we have been forced to. We've been forced to do water reclamation. We've been forced to do water electrolysis. We're actually a global leader in that technology. And, prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. We have multiple desalination plants, right? Mostly offsetting energy use with wind power. So desalination is going to be a thing. Prepare yourself for it. Fresh water may become pretty scarce, but it is energy expensive. It definitely is energy expensive, but we manage our water with sort of desalination and reclamation. Hang on, there's Perth saltwater desalination plant. The first modern large-scale desalination plant was the Perth seawater desalination plant. Okay, so Let's share this. Let's go to dark mode as well. Dang. What's all with the light mode stuff? Share. Okay, so this is the Perth seawater desalination. And look at where it's located. Okay, does anybody know, it turns seawater from, does anybody know how to pronounce that? Okay, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. Does anyone know how to pronounce that? Does anyone know how to pronounce that? It turns seawater into 140 megaliters or 30 million US gallons, 37 million US gallons. So gallons to liters. Yeah, 140,000 liters per day. Oh, no, 140 million liters per day. Saltwater reverse osmosis. Yep. Wind farm. The farm contributes. Coburn. Well done. Yes, that word is actually, the area is pronounced Coburn. Coburn. Yes, Coburn. It doesn't look like it. I find it hilarious, but yeah. The wind farm contributes gigawatts, more than offsetting the requirement. So it contributes 270 gigawatts per year, offsetting the 180 gigawatts per year requirement from the desalination plant. So we have a desalination plant that is run by wind power. It is absolutely possible. Okay, this shows that it's possible, and it puts more power back into the grid as well. Okay, so desalination is not beyond the realm of scope for renewable power. Hang on a second. I gotta read this. It was expected to have one of the world's lowest energy consumption. The isobaric chamber, which cover energy in the brine system of water going to the membrane for a net transfer efficiency of up to 98%. In early 2008, the plant was shut down on 2 occasions due to reduced dissolved oxygen levels in Coburn Sound. Yeah, so this is where I live in Perth, right? And this wasn't like, oh, we're going to do desalination because it's a good project. No, we needed it. We absolutely needed it. We absolutely needed it. Right. This wasn't an option for us. You know, they sort of say, but hey, where I live, you know, incredibly advanced desalination and reclamation. We also recycle our wastewater as well. So get used to that idea. It just is a thing. Yeah. But windmills kill whales. Yeah, they're basically claiming that the sound makes whales disoriented and they'll beach themselves. There's absolutely nothing to support that. The thing that is stopping windmills in America at the moment is one idiot president, and it seems to come down to, he had a golf course in Scotland and he lost against the government. He lost a lawsuit against the government because he didn't want the windmills in to spoil the golf course's view. And he lost that suit and the government put in wind turbines. That seems to be his problem, that he doesn't like them because they're ugly. And this is a guy who has the most garish taste in gold and disgusting, horrible things. Yeah, it's the drop bears. Absolutely. The drop bears and the hoop snakes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to call it here. Thank you so much for coming, everybody. This was enlightening into how Bronze Age surrogacy works. I will give you a summation of how it works. Unconsensually is how it works, and how little autonomy certain women had, especially if they were not from the, they're from Egypt, how little autonomy they had and things. But I will be back tomorrow for the members, for the true believers. You can get a membership. I do extra shows for them, where we will be talking all things news and also cat eugenics. Just saying, because I cannot get enough of that. So to all the readers, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. It was a lot of fun. I like these two passages, and it just gets crazier from here. If you have not read the Old Testament, it is a wild ride, and it will just get wilder from here. But thank you all so much. Don't forget to be kind to yourself. If an angel tells you to go back to be a baby incubator for a guy who you never wanted to have a baby with, say no. And don't go, well, obviously you see me. Yes, they see you as an incubator. No, this is not how the world should work. No. Like, be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. If you have a woman who you force to have a baby with your husband because you can't, don't be a prick to her. Don't be nasty to her. That's just wrong, yo. And be a better person than that. Holy crap, Sarai. Could you get any worse? Abraham and Sarai, like, they are the worst couple. And the worst couple. Anyway, people, do take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.